You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hey folks, it's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as, I don't know, your uncle who always gives you that side eye whenever you're at Thanksgiving dinner. Anyway, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Today we're going to get into the learning. We're going to do some learning. We're going to talk about English, the language, as it were, or maybe just English people, per se. He is the author of the latest book to come out, April 15, 2025. Gabe Henry joins us on the show. He's a multi-book author, and his latest book is called Enough is Enough. The second enough is spelled E-N-U-F, for those of you who are English technicians. Enough is Enough, our failed attempts to make English easier to spell. We're going to be talking to him about his insights, and we're talking about English language, and maybe we can now fix a few things or break a few things, or I don't know. We'll get into it. Gabe, author, is the author of 3 books. I'm sorry, Gabe Henry is the little dyslexic today. Gabe Henry is the dyslexia is acting up. Gabe Henry is the author of 3 books, including the poetry anthology Eating Salad Drunk, a humor collaboration with Jerry Seinfeld, Bob Odenkirk, Mike Bragaggio. I don't know, I'm butchering that because I have a camera in front of it.
Birbiglia.
Thank you. There's a camera right in front of it. Margaret Cho and other titans of comedy. Eating Salad Drunk was featured in The New Yorker in February 2022 and was ranked one of Vulture's best comedy books of 2022. His work has been published in New York Magazine, The Weekly Humorist, The New Yorker, Light Poetry Magazine, and Motion Picture Association's magazine, The Credits. He has spent more than a decade exploring the strange and forgotten history of simplified spelling, which by his own admission has only made him a worse speller. He lives and works in New York. Welcome to the show, Gabe. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Chris. Big fan. It's a pleasure to be on.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have you as well. Give us your .coms or wherever you want people to find out more about you.
It's GabeHenry.com, and Instagram is Gabe.Henry.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview on your new book.
Listen, Chris, I'm a little bit afraid of heights. Can I give you the 10,000 foot?
Sure. Let's do that.
All right. So the book is called Enough is Enough. And like you said, the second enough is spelled E-N-U-F, which is very important. I'll get to why in a second. It's a book for word nerds, history buffs, and anybody who's ever looked at a spelling of an English word and wondered, why the hell is it spelled that way? So the book looks at the history of English spelling reform, how Noah Webster, for instance, he was the creator of Webster Dictionary. He tried to get all Americans to spell laugh, L-A-F, and love, L-U-V, and though, T-H-O.
Mm-hmm. And why do you do that? I think we may have lost you, Gabe. You locked up there on the screen. See if Gabe comes back to us here. The internet gods are not with us this morning, evidently. We've angered them. I'm gonna have to sacrifice. I'm gonna have to sacrifice a microphone and throw it in the garbage or burn it at the altar or something. Gabe. Oh, he's dropped out, so he should be back. Sometimes enough is enough with the internet. Or maybe the internet has had enough of me. Me and my guests. They're like, the internet's, we've had enough of you and your guests and your funny business. You're trying to entertain people and make them smarter, and we're not going to have that anymore. It's probably just got illegal, according to probably a presidential executive order, if it's January 2025. This is the part that we had out of the show, folks. It's kind of funny. The final show, actually. Just in the live. It's kind of a high wire of live, though, when you really think about it. So stay tuned, folks. We got him. Our gentleman should be back here very soon, I'm sure. Let's see. We need to fix Gabe Show. There you go. No, for the editing department of the Chris Voss Show. It's about 5,000 people over there working away diligently to make sure that all the shows are properly edited. And if you've listened to any of them, you're like, well, what the hell are those people doing? I don't know. Elon Musk sent him a letter yesterday saying that they all need to say what they did last week. Here he is. We have him back. Gabe, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. I just had to take a break, Sometimes
there you go. I mean, the question was a little bit overwhelming, and we need to give you time to think about it. So that's
my brain exploded, and it cut out my Wi-Fi.
Well, it's better than your Wi-Fi exploding and your brain, whatever. So I think I was asking you were about starting to give me a 10,000-foot overview of your book.
Right. So I was talking about Noah Webster and how he was trying to implement all these simplifications to our spelling. This is, we're talking 1780s, 1790s. And the reason he wanted to do it was to distance America from England. Because to him, it seemed weird that right after the American Revolution, we're creating this distinct government, a distinct culture, and yet we're still using the same language as our oppressor. So he thought easiest way to declare linguistic independence, so to speak, is continue speaking English, because it's hard to just change your language overnight, but spell it differently. So he came up with spellings like through would be spelled THRU. Tongue would be spelled TUNG. Ake was AKE. And he tried to get these spellings to catch on. He published an essay in 1789 called An Essay on Reformed Spelling. And he was
it's like a Federalist paper for it's like a Federalist paper for English.
Exactly. And it was such an extreme proposal that no one took it seriously. He was criticized, he was ridiculed, and he ended up withdrawing this proposal. But what it did is it catalyzed basically hundreds of years of continuing proposals for what was called simplified spelling. And so this has been going on for hundreds of years with dozens and dozens of different people trying to simplify spelling.
There you go. And so you profiled Mark Twain. He did some stuff with words. Ben Franklin, him too. I think he wrote some declarations we're trying to burn today in 2025. Eliza Burns, C.S. Lewis, George Bernard Shaw, and Charles Darwin, because everyone knows most English evolved from species. I'm just making a joke there. So there you go. So what made you interested in writing about this?
Well, I first learned about it in college, and I remember being struck by the sheer ridiculousness of it. This idea that people were walking around in revolutionary times spelling the way some modern teenager would be texting their friend with these phonetic, creative abbreviations. It wasn't until many years later when I actually started digging into the movement, reading through the articles and the archives and the journals and the letters, that I realized how rich and complex it actually was. It attracted so many different characters, some of whom were clearly brilliant and some of whom were just absolutely out of their minds. But they all shared this belief that you can change society in some small way by changing the way we spell. So I wanted to bring those characters to life and to show how, even the smallest efforts to change the world can sometimes ripple through history in these really surprising ways.
Yeah. I mean, technically, all these guys just had to wait for text messaging to kick in and social media, and then all the English language gone to hell.
I think that's the irony, isn't it? Noah Webster was just born too early.
Too early, man, before your time. So I was the same way. I was born before my time, and I wish I would have been born maybe, I don't know, 100 years later? Or
200 years later?
200 years, somewhere around there. How old am I again? Anyway. Maybe a generation or two. Of course, then that would make me millennial or Gen Z. Maybe that wouldn't work out as well. Anyway, we tease
God
the Gen
forbid.
Z. We tease the Gen Z. But no, I've been guilty of the shorthanding too, and for a long time. I'm an author like you are, and so I enjoy wordplay and words. And I resisted, the emoji. I still am resisting the emojis. I'm not giving that. I am not giving a quarter to that. And if you get an emoji, if you get any more than one emoji or any emojis from me, I've been hacked or I'm being held hostage somewhere. Don't give them the ransom because I don't have any money anyway. But no, I started spelling your with UR. I still struggle at 57 to make sure there's the RE on certain, UR sort of bullshit. I still
Do you ever
struggle
spell
with
do you ever spell the word? Do you ever spell the word "you" with just the letter "u"?
Yeah, yep. Started doing that. And I really hated myself for it. I really hated it. I was like, what the fuck? This is just really annoying. But, I'm single and chicks love emojis and they love shorthand and they love texting. And you just had to finally give up. And I mean, if you want to get laid, that's the only way it's going to have to work out. But the
You gotta work
problem
on
is
those eggplant emojis.
exactly. Yeah, the you got to do the eggplant and the whatever, the peaches. Anyway, I don't know I still don't know what those mean fully, I'm sure. I don't know what those mean, folks. Don't get upset. But I mean, geez, we were joking before the show in the green room that your next book might be a book about just turning the whole English language. Just give up on the English language and we'll just live on emojis. I think there's some people that want that.
Yeah, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, I would only have to have 50 emojis.
50 emojis. Even my mom's 82 and she's adapted to emojis. Like she knows how to do emojis really well. I think it's a chick thing. I don't know, maybe. But I don't get it. But the young people do, and I suppose that's all that matters because I'm old and out to pasture and they'll probably put me in a rest home any day now. But thank God I don't have kids. So what were some of the other things, aspects of the book? I mean, are we really devolving as a society with all these shorthands, because God knows the Gen Zers have to get back to, I don't know, ordering stuff from Starbucks and food delivery and, I don't know, buying cars that they can't afford and then wondering why they can't afford houses. It seems like that's...
It's hard to know, I think, what is devolving and what is evolving. Because if our language is getting shorter, if we're kind of all our informal digital communication is getting quicker and shorter and more efficient, is more efficient necessarily devolving? It's hard to say. I don't think that there is one immutably correct or incorrect way of spelling in English. There's only what's correct for a given time. So
where were you when I was in school? Where were you when I was in school? I need you to defend me from my English teacher.
I hate to say it, but I don't think I was born yet.
Oh, wow! Shots fired over here. Somebody call the authorities. You get into the origins of the America's National Spelling Bee and the future of shaming students ever since. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know about you, but I remember school spelling bees. I think everyone in America had some version of a local spelling bee, and they, depending on the amount that they've repressed the memory, they probably remember the exact word they got out on. For me, it was acquiesce.
Oh, really?
Which to this day, I can't spell.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
restaurant
remember?
Was. I don't know if restaurant I failed the spelling bee, but I just barely learned to spell restaurant about 3 months ago, and I'm very proud of myself. At 57.
Good for you. Yeah. So no other language has regular spelling bees the way we do.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the other countries that do have national spelling bees, places like India, Nepal, and Japan, they conduct their spelling bees in English anyway. It's really a competition that's specific to the English language because of how messed up and unphonetic and irrational our language is.
Wow. Do we have the worst language in the world? I mean,
It's considered to be the worst spelling in the world, the least efficient, the least predictable.
Oh.
France is a little bit bad,
Yeah.
nowhere near as bad as English. And then there are extremely phonetic spellings like Spanish, German that have a corresponding one-to-one sound to letter relationship. One, when you see the letter C, you make the sound of C, as opposed to our language where a C could be the sound of K as in Chris, or it could be the sound of S, or it could be a ch. It's hard to, or it could be silent, so it's hard to know.
I never realized my name is pronounced with basically a K, Chris Voss. Yeah.
I think
Well,
if you were
explains
to
Chris
simplify,
Christopherson.
I think if you were to simplify the spelling of your name, it would be Kris and then maybe just Vos.
Dude, you could save me at least 5 minutes a day with that, or 2 minutes a day or something.
Which
I might
means
do
I think
that.
you could have saved 8 months of your life at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. Because
Don't
I
check
mean,
my
some of this. Well, you are into spelling and not math, so there you go. Unless you have another book on spelling or math you're working on. But I was just going to say, I'm still in therapy for failing at the spelling piece that I went through, and depressed over it. So thanks, America's Spelling Bee, you fuckers. Anyway, but no, it's kind of, I really struggled with the shorthand that really came from texting and social media. And part of it is, I do have to communicate with a lot of people, but the problem is I also have to write in a business format. Like on emails, you look like a fucking idiot writing UR and sending emojis, and maybe things have changed now, but I've sent emails to very professional people writing stupid shorthand like we're talking about, and they're like, what is going on? Like, what kind of professional are you, buddy? You're writing books, and this is the shorthand you're using to people. And it kind of like, I think there were some comedians that did some jokes about how much time are these people really saving? What, so they can go watch The Bachelor or something, or The Kardashians, because that's important. It's kind of like when you watch the guy spend 20 minutes backing the giant truck into a parking space just so he can leave quickly, and you're like, is that really saving you a lot of time? Like, and that's how I looked at most of the shorthand that I've seen in this whole pattern of the de-evolution.
Well, you're touching on
society.
something. Yeah. All right. I think you cut off for a second. Can you see? Can you see me?
I believe so. Let's check. I think you're having some issues on your end with the feed and internet.
Okay. Well, as long as it's getting to you on your end.
We just have to
well, you touched on something. Yeah, you touched on something, which is that simplified spelling. One of the reasons it never caught on is because it always looks like a kid wrote it.
Yeah.
It just naturally looks like a child. So if you're trying to change the language of a whole country, and you're trying to convince your fellow founding fathers that this is a good idea, it just is laughable and mockable to spell a word like love, L-U-V. It just looks like a 4-year-old attempting to spell. And that's
glad it's not just me.
It never caught on.
Yeah. So why is it catching on now? Is it true that social media and massive texting and people, I don't know, the de-evolvement of society maybe through social media? Because I mean, we've seen social media and how that's turned out. Why is it finally catching on now?
Well, it has to do with technology and speed and efficiency. So if I'm communicating to you by vocally, like we are now, I might use a little slang. I might say, "Hey, what's up?" instead of, "Hey, what is up? How are you doing?" You shorten things naturally because we're trying to communicate the most efficient way possible and in the shortest amount of time. And when technology comes about, like texting or in social media, where like speed and efficiency really are the most important thing, and you can communicate in real time that way, it just kind of is a organic, abbreviated way that we have of, you can do this for X number of letters, or you can shorten it. And if you're trying to communicate in a way that feels like you're communicating in real time, we're just naturally going to shorten those spellings. And I think that there's also an appeal to a younger crowd. The idea that you could write in a non-traditional way is almost like a rebellion against tradition, against the older generations. There's something creative and fun and almost like rebellious about texting. Texting the letter U instead of the word U. You see this also in song titles and rapper names. I think all of it has to do with looking a little bit like you're on the outside looking in.
So maybe rap maybe help too on top of social media and texting and everything, because shorthand and slang and what was the old airplane joke about people being able to talk jive? Remember that? maybe rap
talking and jive with the subtitles.
Yeah, talking and jive with the subtitles. Yeah. When the stewardess comes up to the two black gentlemen and they're talking in jive, and the one's sick and she goes, she raps with him. Maybe rap is one of the proponents that's helped us kind of maybe evolve the language.
Yeah, I think yes, but pop music in general is one of the big conveyors of like informal creative spelling. So like if you look at starting around the 1960s, I think a lot of musicians and artists started using simplified creative spelling in their band names and song titles. Like you have the Beatles spelled with an A, B-E-A-T, the Byrds spelled with a Y, the Monkees spelled without a Y, and then into the 70s, Def Leppard, U2. And I think especially it peaked in the 80s with Prince. If you look at his song titles, he really loved using that standalone letter and standalone number instead of words. For instance, like nothing compares to you with the number 2 and the letter U. I would die for you with the number 4. So yeah, I think that it really took off in the 80s, but the whole trend now is so ubiquitous that it's hard to pinpoint who was inspired by whom. But I really do think that it was the creativity of like the 60s that brought it out of people.
Oh, there you go. That's it, probably the drugs then. The acid and the LSD, maybe?
It's the drugs.
It always starts with the drugs, kids. Just say no.
I mean, you try spelling lysergic acid.
What is it? What acid?
You try spelling lysergic acid.
Lysergic acid. I mean, there was a lot of great music that could have been better if it just would have been spelled right, like Hotel Cali instead of Hotel California. Like maybe, what does California rhyme with anyway? Like, what were the Eagles thinking, for Christ's sake?
I know. Why pick that? I mean, what are the Red Hot Chili Peppers thinking every time they write a song?
Yeah. Welcome to the Hotel Cali. That's more hip. No, it's not. Anyway, you do talk in the book about how the proponents of the K, there was a series of the craze for K in the advertising world. Tell us about that history.
Yeah, so in the 1920s, there was advertisers. This is around the time Madison Avenue takes off in New York City, and advertisers began using simplified spelling as a way to as a gimmick, to catch the eyes of consumers.
Was it partly for trademark too?
What was that?
Partly for trademark and copyright too, as well?
Well, I mean, once you spell the word, the brand Krispy Kreme, it's easier to trademark that than spelling it with a C, if you know what I mean, because that word crispy with a K just now becomes yours. It becomes associated with you. And this replacing the hard letter C with the K was this very popular technique used at the time. So in addition to Krispy Kreme, this is around the time we get Kool-Aid and Kleenex and Rice Krispies, all these words spelled with a K, and Kmart. I don't know if that was from that time, but I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
I'll have to add that into the second edition of the book.
Actually, I'm going off of. Oh, it isn't on the list there. I thought it was. I'm going off the PR sheet, and I could have sworn I saw Kmart, but my apologies. Yeah, it's not on there.
Yeah, but the linguists at the time actually coined a name for this. They called it the craze for K, and they blamed it specifically on the simplified spelling movement because the simplified spellers had been pushing words like character with a K and chorus with a K really since the days of Noah Webster in the 1790s. So they really pinpointed the simplified spellers as the cause and the people to blame for this really annoying trend of the time, a trend that still continues.
There you go. Well, I mean, it seems like, once we've gone to emojis, I think, I don't know what the next step is. Is there a bottom below emojis?
Telekinesis.
Thought transfer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just upload a thought.
Yeah, that would be scary because I met some dumbass people in this world, mainly me. And do I really want to be inside their brain? Like that just it's bad enough when you get around some people and they're stupid or just from what they say or what they do, let alone if you get inside their brain, they might infect you with their dumbness.
Yeah, it's hard enough to be in my own brain. I couldn't take another person's.
Yeah, or somebody who's like one of those conspiracy theorist people who, always claims the world is flat. You get in their brain, you're just like, oh my God, this place is a mess in here. It's like a hoarder's.
This place is full of 5G.
It's full of 5G, yeah. It's hoarders. And everyone knows the world isn't flat, it's a triangle. Jesus Christ, people. Do your research. Anyway. Don't start a cult over that joke, please, people. Don't. Please don't. Anyway, you can start an OnlyFans, just not a joke of the triangle on Earth. Anyway, so you really delved into this. You dug into the history. I think the most annoying thing that I find is, what is they call it? The King's English, the Brits' English, and our English.
Yes.
And, some of the things that they say wrong, like I'll see it and I'll be like, somebody's smoking some crack. And then I'm like, nope, they're just from Britain.
And then there's the difference in spellings between American and Britain. Those also started with Noah Webster.
Oh, really?
The man, he was so devoted. Yeah. So after he tried and failed to push forward his extreme forms of simplified spelling, like tongue, T-U-N-G, he pulled it back, but he didn't withdraw. He didn't give up on it entirely. And when he was putting his Webster's dictionary together 20 years later, what he did was he selectively incorporated a lot of these simplified spellings into his new book. Words like honor and color without the U, words like plow, which us Americans spell P-L-O-W, but Britain still spells P-L-O-U-G-H, theater and center ending in E-R. These were all remnants of his simplified spelling. And once his dictionary became widely read, it lent legitimacy to these spellings, and they ended up shaping American English as we know it. So whenever you're looking at, a bizarre British spelling, like they spell draft, D-R-A-U-G-H-T.
What?
You just have Noah Webster to thank for our simpler spellings.
And this is why they have bad teeth over there. No, I'm just teasing. That's not why. I tease the British. We love the British. We love our comrades over there. And I think the problem is they drink tea and we drink coffee, and we might be having some more caffeine, and so we're just off on our own program over here. Democracy.
Cheers.
What are you going to do? You talk about this. This was kind of interesting out of the book. The sheer absurdity of the anti-absurd alphabet, where they literally tried to turn all the English letters into numbers. Is that correct?
Oh, boy. So in the 1800s, there were dozens of simplified spelling proposals, and each proposal had a different quirk, a different attitude, a different angle. And some of them were pretty logical and phonetic. And then there was someone named Bartłomiej Banowski, who in 1845, he published this proposal that tried to change all English letters into numbers. Wow. So the way it worked was, first you would reduce a word to its dominant letters. So, for instance, if you take the word paper, you would reduce it to the letters PPR. Then you take those letters and you bring them over to this number grid, numbered 3 by 3, numbered 1 through 9, like a telephone keypad, and each number would have letters associated with it. So you take the word PPR and you bring it over to the grid, and you find that it corresponds to 994. And that's how, in his system, you spell paper. And it's so absurd. I mean, it's bizarre. It's beyond comprehension. But the irony is that his name for it was the anti-absurd alphabet. And he referred to all his followers as anti-absurdists. And
he had followers?
Well, he hoped to have followers.
Okay. Because I'm looking at this going, this guy never got laid, clearly.
No, because he couldn't use emojis. That's the reason.
He couldn't use emojis. That's why. Yeah. The chicks weren't taking the texting.
I mean, and he, this was just
back then. You had to back then you had to teletype through the dot dash machines.
Right. Very primitive stuff. Very primitive.
Or smoke signals. One of the two. I tried using smoke signals to make dates and pick up chicks, and it hasn't worked yet. Unless you may set fires at their house, and then they tend to notice.
Well, what about lanterns in the window? I find 1 for yes, 2 for no.
Oh, that's right. Works. 2 for no. Yeah. Or just have Paul Revere ride around with the horse there, eh? There you go.
Yeah.
That's just wild. Paper would be 994. Knowledge would become 256. And so you just say 994 to people? Like, have you turned in your 994, sir? And
well, it was purely a written alphabet. And you would still continue to speak English as we speak it.
Oh.
But on paper, let's say, and I'm estimating, I'm kind of ballparking. Let's say if you save 50% of your time writing, account for the learning curve of figuring this out and getting fluent with it. But theoretically, there goes, you're saving 50% of time, 50% of money, 50% of paper and ink. And these people really thought in those terms. That's why they thought of it as the opposite of absurd. Because anything that was the opposite of English, the ultimate absurdity, would have to be anti-absurd.
I think batshit Elon Musk or some really crazy person, maybe JFK Jr., should John FK or RFK Jr., whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
I think one of these stupid people should pick this up and try and make it a thing again. The anti-absurd alphabet. Like I think this would be kind of fun to watch, kind of like flat earthers.
I think we're due for another iteration of the movement,
sure.
And I wouldn't be surprised if some person out of left field just says, hey, Donald Trump's not a good speller. We know that from his Twitter account. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to make everyone spell like him, weird random capitalizations, and make that the law of the land.
Yeah. Well, you know what you need for that? Middle of the night Adderall and diapers. So there's that. Anyway, that's a Trump joke, folks. Anyway, this is the anti-absurd alphabet. I just love the name too. It's not stupid alphabet, folks. Don't call it stupid. Anyway, don't call me stupid, though. But yeah, somebody should. You should write your next book this way. I think this is the 4th book for you.
In the anti-absurd alphabet.
Yeah, you should see if you can make another run at this. I mean, we got emojis. Yeah. I mean, how stupid could that shit be? Numbers probably sound a little bit smarter. But then how do you do it if you're gonna say to somebody, hey, send me $50, the 50 is a number, and so people are gonna mistake it for a word. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, you might be accidentally saying, hey, send me no dollars.
Yeah. Was maybe the number, maybe he made it so that the words would be numbers, but the numbers would be words.
Oh boy,
that makes no sense.
That just makes way too much sense for me to comprehend.
I think we just broke both our brains with my stupidity there. But then there's your whole new thing. That'll be on 4chan later tonight. There'll be a prophet, and JFK will come back. He's been hiding clearly all these years, and he's 150 years old. So what do you hope people come away with reading the humor and history of your book?
Well, I want people to look at it and to read it and say, first of all, this is hilarious. This is absurd and hilarious, and I can't believe that all these have come out of different human brains. And I want people to read the book and say, hey, I never thought about language this way. I never thought that, hey, my name is Chris, and that C is a hard K. It's a K sound. Maybe there's a way of spelling that doesn't have silent letters. But I think above all, I want people to understand that, language is always changing. It's always evolving. It always will evolve. And despite our best intentions to try to push it into the future or try to pull it back in the past, it's always going to do what it does. It's always going to go in the direction it wants to go. Noah Webster had this quote. He said something. This is not direct, but he said the progress of language is like the course of the Mississippi. Essentially, in that the Mississippi will go where it wants to go. We can stand on the riverbank and watch it, observe it. Maybe we could paddle through it, but we can't change the direction it's going to go. That water is going to flow how it wants to, and that's the way language is. So all these attempts to artificially change the language, they don't work. It's the organic ways of changing the language that do. It's the informal slang that we see in texting and on social media. The language always evolves from the bottom up, and I think that's what we're seeing. And I'd be surprised if in 100 or 200 years, if we weren't all spelling using a lot more simpler spelling than we do now, a lot more closer to the way we use in our digital language.
Yeah. Bottom up. How did North Hollywood hijack that term? Anyway, moving on. See what I did there, folks? Anyway, right now people are Googling that. Don't Google that. It might be bad. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Did you ever think about trying to interview the band The Police over their song "Da do 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 da 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 da" is all I want to say to you? Like that was some high end English artwork there.
That's going to be for the sequel, Chris.
There you go.
You can hold me to it.
Sting, what the fuck were you on when you were doing that? And I'm sure it was something. He was probably doing that 24-hour sex yoga or whatever he bragged about one time 20 years ago. Anyway, guys, if I pull any more references from that Gen Z and millennials don't get, stop me while I'm still ahead. Well, thank you very much, Gabe, for coming on the show. It's been entertaining. You've written a great book, and hopefully, I don't know. We'll see if it. We'll see where it goes from here. I mean, for all we know, we're just going to be in the movie Idiocracy, and we're just going to grunt at each other, which is really coming back to where we started when it comes down to it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Chris. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
It was wonderful to have you as well, Gabe. Thanks so much for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. It's a fun read. Enough is enough. Our failed attempts to make English easier to spell. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.